In our last video, we looked at graphing quadratic functions and graphs and finding out information about them. And we had a function in a perfect square form, a times x minus h squared plus k. And we saw as soon as we knew what the vertex was, as soon as we knew what h and k were, we knew all of this additional information. And we could use it to graph the parabola, see if it opens upwards or downwards, see if it's a minimum or a maximum, etc. Usually we're not going to find a quadratic function in perfect square form. But there is a process for getting a function in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, that's called standard form, for getting it into perfect square form. And we're going to see that if we did that, we're going to end up with a formula. So for our vertex, we're going to end up with negative b over 2a, using this b and this a. And notice that this is the first part of the quadratic formula that we learned about in a previous formula. Remember, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. If you just take off the first part, the negative b over 2a, that's going to be the x coordinate of the vertex. The vertex is an ordered pair, an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So you need to commit this to memory. You need to memorize that the vertex of a quadratic function written in standard form, the x coordinate is negative b over 2a. We'll look at the y coordinate in a minute. So let's say I have a function f of x equals two x squared plus 8x minus 3. And I want you to find the x coordinate of the vertex. That means just the first number, the x number of the vertex. So as soon as I see that, the x coordinate of the vertex, I immediately need to be thinking of negative b over 2a. So I have to know what a is. A is 2. A equals 2, the coefficient of x squared, and b is 8, the coefficient of the x. So if I plug those numbers in, I get negative 8 over 2 times 2. Negative 8 over 4 is negative 2. So far on my vertex, I have negative 2 and then something from my y coordinate. But let's think about how functions work. If I know what x is, if I know what x is negative 2, to figure out what y is, remember f of x is y. So to find the y coordinate, I'm going to plug to find the y coordinate of the vertex. Once I know what x is, I can use the function to figure out what y is. So I'm going to plug it in to the function in place of x and evaluate y. Let's see. So I have 8 minus 16 is negative 8, minus 3 is negative 11. So the y coordinate of the vertex is negative 11. I used negative b over 2a to find the x coordinate, and then I plug that number into the function to find the y coordinate. Let's look back up here. Notice in my formula here, my x is negative b over 2a, And once I have that, I can plug that number in to the function to get y. And I didn't write that part at the beginning because it looks kind of confusing. But all that means is once I have this number, I can plug that number into the function to get the y value. And now I have my x and y coordinate, and I can find all of this other information. So I'd like you to do that for this parabola. I want you to state whether it opens up or down. I want you to state whether you have a max or a min and what that value is. I want you to write the axis of symmetry. And I want you to write the range. And all of these things are going to be much easier to do if you actually sketch a graph of the function. So just draw a quick sketch. Don't worry about x and y intercepts, just draw a quick sketch. Pause the video, write all of this information, and then check back your work. All right, let's look back at our original function here. We have a positive 2, so that means that we open up. We already found our vertex using negative b over 2a and f of negative b over 2a. So I can draw a quick sketch of this. And it opens upwards. And again, we're not actually, well, no, we're not yet. In our next video, we'll look at finding x and y intercepts. So we're going to draw our sketch up real quick. And we can see that our axis of symmetry is the line x equals negative 2. It opened upwards. And we can see visually from the picture, we have a minimum. And my minimum value here is negative 11. And my range, I'm sweeping up from the bottom. I start at negative 11, including negative 11, and I keep going to infinity. So we see that we can use the same information that we learned in our last video. The only thing that's different is our method of finding the vertex. And that's using the formula negative b over 2a for the x-coordinate of the vertex. And once I have that, plug it into the function to get the y. In our next video, we're going to add a little bit extra information about parabolas, and we're going to look at finding x